Now, let's move on to the next thing, these tires. These tires are just horrible. The thing gets stuck all the time. They're just real narrow tires. They don't bite real well off the road. We don't go on the road, just off the road. So I have ordered up some new wheels and tires, and they're bigger, so I'm probably going to have to make or buy a lift kit of sorts to clearance this. So let's get tires and wheels. So these tires are 20 by 6 by 10. I didn't go vastly larger. These ones are 20, where's it at? 20 by 10 by 12. So they're a little bit taller, quite a bit wider, and they're DOT approved. Not that that's going to matter to us because we're not going on the road, but just a wee bit taller, I guess a few inches taller. My wife didn't want anything that would make it tough for her to get in and out of, and so this was the option, or one of the options, this size. And I measured the bolt pattern, so let's hope I got that right. I'm not sure if I did or didn't. Give me a little mini truck, mini wheel chalk. Oh yeah, by far better. So now we're going to jack up the front end and see what it's going to take to get them on and make sure they clearance. You can see they're a real deep offset. Hopefully that's going to help me where I'm not rubbing anything in the back. I measured the offset and checked all that the best I could. So we'll see what happens. The little drum brakes. Let's just see if we got the right bolt pattern for one, and if we have the right back spacing. Boy, I'm nervous. I think it's gonna hit. I'm gonna have to use spacers. This is so little. Well, it turns. It's at full lock now. I still am plenty far away from this trailing arm here, and we're just touching right here at that fender flare right there. So now you have to figure about suspension travel and how far it's going to go and hit. So I imagine we need to add 2 inches. If we can get 2 inches in there, that should be enough for suspension travel, because right now we can't travel at all, not in a full turn. And a lot of times that's when the body's going to roll. So yeah, let's see what we can do. That definitely came up just a little bit. I should have measured that, shouldn't I? It don't matter. I think it came up about 1 inch. I don't know, maybe. But so we're gonna have to do something with the front. These are a strut mount, so it's got a coil spring on top, and there's a bearing plate on the top, so the spindle can turn the whole entire thing while the mount stays still. So we'll probably just put a spacer between the two. You can buy a kit for these. I gotta say, I like the width. I think it's just about perfect. I'm gonna try and keep them fender flares, even as boogered up as they are. You know, maybe we can doll them up a little bit or do something different. But all in all, I think they're keepers. I think we'll leave that on there. I don't think it looks bad at all. It looked really, I didn't like it before, but now I do. It raised it just a little bit in the front. The back is real close to what it was, and that's okay, because that's really what she's after. She would like it to stay as low as possible so it's still easy for her to get in and out and get her stuff in the back. This is a stationary bed. You can see it's bolted on here and it's bolted to here. Now, when they build these Japanese trucks, these little mini trucks, they're basically built to be anything. They could be a van, they could be a utility body, they could be a dump body, and it all just depends on how it's configured up here. You know, they just add on to this channel here and move this back. So when they do, you move this back for the dump bed, and it has a header panel that goes in here. And then this is just this thing here, and it's like a rain gutter. It's exposed. So what we're going to do is take the body off. We're going to take this bed off, and we're going to build an assembly for underneath it to make it a dump. It's probably going to be electric over hydraulic, just something simple. So the next thing I want to do is get this all unbolted and get this bed off and kind of stand it on its end, because we're going to have to make a bulkhead for it to connect these two, because I want it to function just like it does now. I want my wife to be able to use this as the fold down size, and I want it to dump. Now, since we are going to be building a dump, the tail pan's all bent up and boogered, so we're going to take that off and build something new, and we'll probably add a hitch to the back so we can lie to ourselves and act like we're actually going to pull something with this. Anyways, let's move on. I know, look how little. So I'm not working on a truck this filthy. So the next thing I'm gonna truck. Listen to me, truck.
It is a truck.
I'm gonna go ahead and pressure wash all this and get it cleaned up as best I can before I get going, and that'll just make things a little bit nicer. Now that is so much better. So I've been pondering this for quite some time. What I wanted to do and what I'm gonna have to do are two different things. I really wanted to just take a piece of angle iron and go over top of this edge right here, like so, and go up the sides, build a frame, set the bed back on top of it, only raise the bed up maybe 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch, so the body line's really undetectable, right? But just isn't gonna work that way. I would have to have something 2.5 inches wide here to make it work. And then what I realized is the unibody or frame or whatever you want to call this is taller than the perch it sits on. So I'd be sitting on this, so I'm raising it 1/8 already. So there's a lot of different things I could do. Well, I'm not gonna. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna build a box tube frame, and I'm gonna lay it inside this frame instead of next to it. I'll have to deal with the vent for the gas line. The box tubing I have is too tall. This right here, from the top of this to the top of here, is only 1.25 inches. Mine's 1.5 inches, so I'll just have to notch that out, do a half round, lay some steel back in, and weld it back. But I think I'm going to build me a box frame first, set it on here, get it set where I think it's going to go, put the bed on, and then look at the body lines, because I'm going to have to notch the box tubing, because the rails on this do not sit even. This one's flat, this one's flat, this one has a space, and this one has a bigger space. So I'm gonna have to notch these ones here or space those, which I really can't space those. I don't have the room. I need that to be as low as possible. All right, so here's what I'm cutting. 1.5 by 1.5 by 1/8 inch wall. It's way overkill, but it's what I have. This is some scrap cut-offs, drops, whatever, and you know, the price is right. All right, well, I've been working on this. My camera battery was dead, so I had to keep on moving. Can't stop work for cameras, so what I did was figured out how much I needed to notch these out to make this all in the same plane. Took me a couple times. I had to relief cut this a little bit more on this cross member in both spots. I was measuring real tight tolerance. I don't know why. I could have just, you know, cut a lot of this out and recessed it down. I just didn't want to. Just trying to keep as much of the actual meat as we could. Just keep it nice and strong, but sometimes I'm my worst enemy because I make things so tight and it's more difficult on myself. But all right, now we're ready to start on the rear hinge. We are working to support these leaf spring hangers. Reason being is we're gonna have our hinges come off here. When you get that bed up in the air and you're on a little bit of an incline, that's an awful lot of twist back here. And I don't want to damage our leaf spring hangers because again, it's just really thin sheet metal. And we had a little bit of a rust issue going on over here. It's kind of rusty as you see, so I cleaned it up real good. And I took some rusty metal, of course, because that's what we have, this old scrap stuff. And I made these triangle plates. So these plates, the idea is to help to secure these corners from twisting. I've got this all cleaned out. I cut this back short, you can probably tell right here. And I laid a well down in here, something to build off of, and then started filling it. Now, our hinges are gonna come in this area right here, so I needed to grind that back in so it wouldn't interfere. So, should be all right. I gotta lay the top ones in. So, I did the same thing over here. Worked out okay. Now, I need to lay that top weld on, and then we have to cut these off. This is what I was saying was in the way and it was holding my substructure up. We got to cut these off. I think I'm just going to come off right here, make a straight line, cut it off. And then I have to get this out of the way. This is a vent line for the gas tank, for the fill neck. And it's got a kink in it right there. We got to get rid of this. Since that tail pan was all boogered up anyways and we're taking it out, I just went ahead and cut at the bottom of these hinges. This is not my end result here. That's not what we're going to leave, but you know, it holds everything for placement for when I can go back to measure what I do need and what I am going to do. Everything I do will be flush because that tailgate can fold down. I don't want it to come down and smack lights and stuff like that. But now it's a lot easier to see what we're working with and hopefully end up with a better product and better end result, I should say. So now we can start working on the hinges. I scrapped the whole idea I had earlier and we're starting over with something fresh. All right, so we are making progress. Took my gusset across this way. I made another gusset to come out this way, and then I set my piece of angle iron on like I always do, and then I found these bushings I had laying on the workbench from something else. I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. I like the size. The only problem was it was too far deep. So I took a piece of truck frame, cut it down, and laid it in there. The radius of the truck frame is perfect. The only problem is I just couldn't get any good weld in here. Unfortunately, I'm using the Yes welder, and my son's over here working on the truck in the other part of the garage, and he's welding too, and we're both on the same circuit, so I was struggling a little bit here, and he noticed the same thing, so I had to swap over to a different circuit for him. But yeah, we got it welded in both ways, so where we got our load supported this way, I'm happy with that, and we've got it this way, and it's not going to damage a frame this way. I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to start working on the brackets that go on the side of this. We're going to sandwich it, put one on either side. I probably could just do one, but it's not my style. I like two. We'll do two. I don't know if I'll drill that and put a grease fitting. My son and my wife are laughing at me because they know I'm probably gonna, but whatever. I am who I am. Alright, so this is what my bracket is going to be on the top side. It looks a little short right here, but that's because this frame's going to come down a little bit once we relief cut that pipe in there. So this works well. So I went ahead and took the piece of truck frame that I cut off from here to make those, and just made my template and just traced them all out, all four of them. The idea is to use the mag drill and drill each one of these out before I cut them, because once I cut them I'd have to drill them by hand, and this is truck frame and it's 3/8 thick, so a little bit challenging to drill with just a hand drill. After that we'll put them in the Evolution chop saw and we'll cut them individually, Then we'll go to the bench grinder. We'll probably take a cutting wheel, cut these off the 45 just to get rid of some of this meat that's here. And then we'll go to the bench grinder and round them all out. I already got my brackets made, and I've taken that U-bolt and I've chucked it up in the vise. I just took a flat disc to it and just cleaned it up a little bit. I needed to take off 18 thousandths, and I think we're just about there, so yeah, I'm gonna go with that. All right, so here it is set up the way I want it. I want a washer in between here. These are sacrificial. That way the wear happens on the washer, maybe not on the bushing in here. When I made this bushing, I cut it just a little bit small so I could put that in there. So here's where I'm at. Nothing's welded. So now I just have to figure out where I want to cut this. Let that cool a little bit. Whenever I have to drill a hole, I need to be straight through. It needs to be accurate. And a pin, I'll take a flat disc. Just give me a little bit of a start of a flat spot. Makes it a little easier so the drill bit's not walking off to the one side or the other of the pin. So once that cools, we'll try it. All right, so here it is. Everything worked out just fine, and now this part's done. We're going to go ahead and get the bed off, and it's raining outside, so we're going to jack this up, get my cribbing out from underneath it, and roll this thing forward. And then we're going to take the bed off, flip it upside down, and finish the welding here. All right, I got my 2 holes cut, my release. This is what I cut out for the cross members, and this happens to be the perfect width, so we're going to cut that and weld them in.
So this is an old lift gate that we have taken off of a truck, gosh, I don't know, some years back, and it's just been sitting. But the cylinder is still good. It doesn't leak or anything. Still have pressure in it. It was a little hard to get the pins knocked out because it's rusty and it's been sitting. But other than that, not too bad, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, but I might have to change the reservoir out. But that's okay.
That's the only thing we've noticed that isn't
so
good.
we're gonna cut this out. We're gonna reuse that mount right there. That's a piece of 1-inch plate steel. I'll just clean them up real good. Put never sees in it. It feels like there's a bushing in there. That's probably why that one didn't freeze up. I mean, it was froze, but it was frozen these, not this. So yeah, it's a power up. If you see the way it's set up, it pushes this way, pulls the ram up for power. In our application, we're probably going to turn it around. They're using this side as a reservoir, so we'll probably take this, flip it around. I think this is like a flow restrictor, like a one-way flow restrictor. So when this was hooked up, when it wanted to go down, it would slow it down so it didn't just liftgate just didn't slam to the ground. So we'll leave that in, but we'll probably reverse these and use this side to push instead of pulling. So this is cracked right here, so really doesn't bother me because I would much rather prefer to have a horizontal mount instead of a vertical. So if I can find another reservoir that bolts onto that that's horizontal, that would be better. Maybe just a little bit more capacity too. I don't know. We'll see what we can find. If I can't find anything, I know the guy to call. He can probably direct me to where I need to go. Alright, so that cylinder has 10 inches of travel. It's bottomed out right now. So that's our collapse length, which is 32 center of eyelet to center of eye. And extended is 32 center to center. So it's going to have to be mounted towards the rear, because if you imagine, when you put this going this way, the farther forward we go, the longer that cylinder's got to be. So we're going to have to put that thing real close to the back here, and it'll almost be straight up and down when it's dumping. Okay, we just got to make sure that there's enough under substructure to that bed so it doesn't bend. I think we'll be fine. If not, I'll go look for another cylinder. I probably have another one laying around. I'm going to take this piece of angle iron, stand it up and down like this, right on top of this bar, and we're going to weld it to the frame on either side, and then we're going to go ahead and stitch weld it across here so we can increase the strength back here by having these two put together instead of just one. And then I won't have to move any mounts of anything except for this one here, which is not being used, so we'll be cutting that one off. I'll just take a plasma cutter real quick and get that off. All right, I've got that cut down to size, cleaned up, and I got it welded in kind of at the ends and just a little one in the middle, just enough to hold it so it's not moving around, not gonna break. So now we can make the mounts. I'd like to use the mounts off that lift gate because it's already made, but it's so big and so heavy. Well, we'll see. We'll go cut it off with a plasma cutter maybe. Break that now. See what we need. Alright, I got that tacked in. I was able to utilize that edge, which I really like, because that's a good bit of strength right there. So the next thing we have to do is let this down and then see where the cylinder ends up. This is completely compressed, so retracted. So I need to find out where that's going to end up on the bed so I can see where I need to make the mounts.
Okay, so he got the cylinder mounted under there in the right spot and seems to be lining up pretty well.
Okay, now I got to measure up here to make sure I'm square. If I'm square, then I'm going to go ahead and weld that cross member in place. Alright, I welded all this in, cleaned it up with a flap disc, wiped it down, 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of paint, but it's so humid today. Look what the paint looks like. It's really weird how it's acting. And then I got these brackets, which I cut off the lift gate as well. I cut them with a little extra material, so I knew what I wanted to do was I wanted to notch cut this and come around this box tubing so that when it's pushing on this corner more than it you know, on the 2 different sides in this corner instead of just pushing on this part. So I also left material long so that it would give me a little more height. So when it's in the rest position, the cylinder is still sitting uphill, but when it goes to come up, because of where the position of the cylinder is, it pushes the bed back just a few inches and gives us a little more degree. We end up with a 45 degree, actually it ends up being 48 degrees of dump angle. I'm plenty happy with that. So now we have to finish up our hinges and then we're going to put it on the truck. I'm having a lot of trouble with trying to locate this reservoir. If anybody knows where to get one of these, it's from a Maxon liftgate. I have looked and looked and searched. What I found is all the holes are far too big and they don't line up. This is inside diameter. This hole is 4 1/8. From this hole to this hole, center to center, is 3 9/16, and from this hole to this hole is 5 inches. I cannot find that reservoir anywhere. If I can't find one, I have to either use a different hydraulic unit or I'm gonna have to make a reservoir, and not looking forward to that. I've got this angle iron all welded into the back to that tube that went across, and the cylinder mount is now all welded in on both sides, primed and painted. I got the bracket up here for the other end of the cylinder mounted and welded. It's that's 1/2-inch plate going to 1/8-inch box, so I was very careful with that because I don't want to burn through the box tubing, but I think it's okay. I'm not a welder, but hey, I'll do my best. So now we are ready to I have to do the hinges yet on the back of the bed. I haven't done that, so that'll be my next thing, and then we're going to set the bed on, hopefully for the last time, and we can start with the bulkhead. what we're gonna do up here. All right, I bought another welder a while ago. Actually, I bought 2 welders, and I haven't had a chance to use this one. I got this one, I got another one in the lower garage, and this is a Lincoln Power MIG 260, and everything we're doing is getting bigger and bigger and heavier, and I've been looking to upgrade, and so I upgraded this one and the other one in the lower garage. So we're gonna get this one set up and we're gonna start using it. Also nice is you can see quickly you're on 35 thousandths argon CO2 mix, 3/8 thick, and gas on the pusher on the wire, and positive on your wire feed. So, and I mean, everything's here, so if you have to change that to the other side, the polarity to negative, you just come in and it's all right there. So it's very quick. One benefit they talk about is the fact that it has a 110 outlet in here, which that doesn't mean anything to me, because I'm always, you know, here we use a lot of cordless stuff. Not only that, we're usually dragging extension cord and somebody's dumping stuff, but whatever. But yeah, what a difference. I mean, just look at that weld. I went right over top the weld that was there. I'm so much happier with that. All right, I positioned the hinges. Now they're welded in. That Lincoln welder is the bee's knees, man.
He's working on the tail pan next, but he has to remove these brackets for the tailgate, and he'll put them back on. And this is a piece of metal that he got. It was like scrap that he got, so he's going to use that and cut it down and make it fit.
Alright, so we're laying out the tail pan, and I meant to order a template for cutting out the holes for grommet lights like this, ovals. I forgot. So what I did was I found the center and found it, laid it out how I wanted it, found the center of the light, drilled a pilot hole, and now we're going to use a hole saw at each end and then just connect the two, and yeah, see how close it comes. We'll let you know how it works.
Well, the plan with the 2.5-inch hole saw on each end and then using the plasma cutter for these lights worked really well.
Yeah, it's nice and snug. That's good.
So it was easier. And we have it flipped over right now because we're using a hole saw for these little lights, and it's really rough, so it's just easier.
Hole saws tend to make a rougher hole, so we wanted anything that's like, if it got a little out of round, we wanted it on the back, because once it gets into the metal, it starts to, you know, straighten itself out and stay in there, and then when you break through, you end up with a better cut on this side than you do this side.
But he's gonna put 3 of those little lights in the middle, and then
I'd like to put,
2 in there.
I would have liked to put more in here, but this is flipped over and flipped upside down, but this is where our structure is for our dump. It comes right into here. So the light will be in here, and there's not enough room to put another one here without making the panel longer, and I don't want to make it any longer because I don't want it to hit. That's why these are 45 like this, so when it comes in, we don't hit that. So I drilled 2 more holes where those amber lights are. They're not going to be amber, they're going to be clear for backup lights. This truck originally had a separate stoplight and a separate turn signal. We're combining the two. Takes a little module, takes a signal, turns into being able to use on 1 light instead of 2. Not a big deal. I got them laying around. I'm not spending money on it. But I like that better. I was going to put backup lights down below, but really don't want anything hanging down below, and I think that's a good use of space. It'll be all right. So now we got to do some stuff under it. I had this cleaned out really well, and we blew it out with a blowgun, and we took a piece of metal, a pry bar, and we kept pushing them 2 seams together until we could get them level. And then I went through and I spot welded just about every 1/2 inch all the way across here, and I was having trouble. Just some of these places in here is quite thin and it didn't do very well. I flap disced it out, but I didn't realize how wide that was going to settle out. so I wish I would have went a little farther, but anyways, at least that'll help keep all the crap from getting up in the, underneath the 2 layers. And it said, I read the directions, it said to put this is best if it goes on bare metal. So like I said, if I'd known we was gonna lay out this far, I would have went farther, but it's better than it was, I suppose. Maybe it'll last just a little bit longer. Got my pieces cut. We're gonna come off here with the hitch. So just use 2 pieces of plate and just cut them on the Evolution chop saw. It'll cut. I cut that just at 6 inches, and it made the full cut. I don't know if it's rated for that, but anyways, I got it tucked in right tight to the edge here, and my string is on the face of this, so that's the same plane. We'll just bring it out. That way I know I'm in the right proximity of where I need to be. As long as this is the same distance away here to there, we'll be close enough for my my way of doing things. I'm not really too worried about that. So we're gonna weld this in, and we'll create a triangle brace to go in here, and the same thing over here. It'll strengthen this joint right here and give us some movement support this way. Then we're gonna take a piece of box tubing across here. This will go all behind the tail pan, and then we'll put the little hitch underneath it, which is just gonna be a piece of box tube like that. Building the receiver tube, and that's just 1/8 inch wall, and I know that's gonna once we put something in there, it's just gonna split out. So I had this piece of 1.5 inch inside diameter box tubing. I just cut a little piece off the end of it, and we're just gonna put it on there and weld her up. I got it set where I think I want it, just out a little bit. I got the pin centered on this box tube. Now I just got to cut the length back here. I can go, when I had it tilted, I measured, I go from here back, I can have 2 inches. And I want that 2 inches because back here I'd like to add a gusset to this plate. Obviously that plate's pretty heavy. I'm just trying to keep it from twisting. And I figure if I get enough weld across the top of this and on this box tubing, it's going to have to twist all of that, plus these brackets out here. So fingers crossed it might work. Alright, so the hitch is done. As you can see, I brought quarter plate down the sides here. I gusseted the corners. I'm still working on figuring out the power MIG and how the settings and how I like it for the way that I attempt to weld. But anyways, I got quarter plate coming down here, got it gusseted in the corner. That really strengthened up that joint as well as strengthens this. I have the top welded. I don't have the bottom or the back welded yet. It's just too tight for me to get in there. I'd just rather try and get a better weld when I take it off, flip it over, and do all the final welds. And here, I just took that piece of box tubing, cut it, and then just welded all the way around. And then that's our receiver, and I welded it here, and I made this 3/8 plate. I didn't record this. It's really hot today. It's a 3/8 plate, and it welds up to the top up here, welds here, and then comes down and goes around the hitch and welds on both sides. I have room to get a gusset in here. I just can't do it right now. So when I get this off and flip it over and do all the final welds, like I got to add one here on either side, and then on the back up here. Once I do that, I'll add that. It should be strong enough. It's not for pulling a trailer, it's for putting a winch in case we get stuck, so you can winch yourselves out of the mud or what have you. But that's it for that. I've got the tail pan cut and notched out. I made a mistake. I was going to put it on here, and I had originally laid it out where this was in the tail pan, not under it, and I had already cut out the tail pan, so I had to weld it back in. So I'm gonna have to flap disc it a little more to get it a little, but it'll be all right. We'll get it. Be all right for what it is, but I think we're gonna quit here. We'll pick this up on the next one.